You're now inside the mind of an entrepreneur with our very own Dwayne Martin.
All right, what's up, everyone? You're tuning into my second episode of Inside the Mind of an Entrepreneur. Today, we're going to be talking about basically what I was talking about in the first episode. If you tuned in, if you notice, I led up basically to the climax of my journey, my story. Now, I'm basically going to define the climax. It's going to be as inside the mind of an entrepreneur. Everything is, I won't say it's facts, but you could say it's my facts. It's my opinion and the things, that I believe. So inside the mind of an entrepreneur, in my mind, the climax is basically, it leads up to that point, basically to your breaking point. And then that's the turning point that's going to allow the individual to either take a turn for the worse or take a turn for the better. So that's my overall definition of it in a nutshell. Now I'm going to explain my climax and how I came to that point, and when I came to the realization and reached that turning point that helped me evolve into a better person, or at least I feel a better person. Now, it honestly started with, if anybody's familiar with a deployment can be there's many steps of a deployment. There's pre-mob, mobilization, and demob. Depending on the soldier, they may take X amount of months for an actual mobilization. Now I'm going to start from the beginning. Pre-mob, that basically it's you training for your mobilization. So before pre-mob, with any soldiers, you basically have to get your mind right. So no matter what situation, circumstances you're going through, at home, with loved ones, anything like that, you automatically are in pre-mob. Pre-mob, they're gonna take you away from your family. You're gonna go to another state. You're gonna train. You're gonna get your mind right. You're gonna get your mind ready for mobilization and for you to know your job, your duty, and to avoid all the distractions, because the distractions, that is not needed, especially when you have a certain mission that you have to complete. So for about 2 months, 3 months, you're going to go for a pre-mob. It's all dependent on the situation and circumstances. Whatever your mission is, your pre-mob may be longer or shorter. Now, I'm not going to get into, necessarily whatever the mission is that I had or anything like that. That honestly doesn't matter with the situation that we're talking about. So spent average 2 to 3 months getting your mind right for mobilization. You have to be able to separate yourself from what's going on at home. So you're learning to become I'm going to say like two separate people. And the one person, you have the soldier, and then you have you have Dwayne. So Dwayne wants to be home with family, with friends, and wants to live a normal life. The soldier has no choice. So you do what you got to do. Like I said, it's up to like 3 months. It's kind of like a mind. It messes with the mind because you're trying to adapt So then from at that point, when you go for mobilization, not only are you trying to adapt mentally, you have to basically adapt physically, because when you go overseas, the the elevation is different, depending on where you're, like, well, the elevation is different. Where I went, the elevation is different, and it's a whole, it's different. The culture is different, everything is different, and you are not with your family. You're not in the same states as your family. You're completely overseas. So there is, the time change is completely different. Something that you have to get used to. You have to acclimate to, and you just it's that person, Dwayne, and the person, the soldier. You become more of the soldier rather than Dwayne. So you become more of the soldier rather than the person that you were, and that's a part of the process of what they do to you. And it's not due to you, it's due for you, because the end of the day, when you're overseas, you don't want to be you more want to be the soldier, because then you have the mission at hand, and you're focused, and you want to make sure you tackle that mission, so then you can go back home and you can be you could be Dwayne. So you spend about, at least for me, 9 months mobilized, and you now that you have learned your mission, or learned your job, your occupation, what your job that it's going to be while you're overseas through pre-mob, you are adapting, like I said, mentally and physically, and just you're learning how to fully be a soldier, basically. Now, that takes a lot out of you, because, like I said, you lose more of you, the person, because of what you're doing. And that, like I said, that's a part of the process. When you're overseas, there's a lot of issues that may arise from at home, but you have to be able to separate the two. And that's most of the time the reason why soldiers they'll have issues when being overseas, because when you're overseas, it's kind of like this. At home, time stops. When you're overseas, I swear, it's like it's so slow. It's not even funny. Everybody's counting down the days. You would swear they're locked up. They'll have writing on the wall. They'll have it on the lockers. They'll tally things up, like they're counting down the months, counting down the days, counting. It's people normally want to get home to their loved ones, regardless of the mobilization, whether it be uh, whether it's like a peacekeeping mission, or or not. Luckily for me, because I'm not one of those people that try to fake anything. Luckily for me, I went on the tail end of like it was Iraqi freedom, so it actually was something. Whereas we were just trying to we're trying to make sure everybody's good. We stationed in Kuwait, which was, I mean, at the time it was I believe at the time it was still, we still got what's it it wasn't they said it was still dangerous, basically, but at least things were just dying down, you know what I mean. It wasn't I don't it wasn't bad. So I will never put up a front like, oh, I was all in the battle zone. No, I wasn't in the battle zone or anything like that. But at the same time, I want people to understand that even if you're in the battle zone, you're not just being separated from being being Dwayne, and more so being the soldier. It still takes a toll on people, and that does become an issue. So, like I said, for those 9 months, you're doing your thing. It's kind of like a mind. It's like a game with the mind, with things going on at home. It's paused basically to you, but it's really not. It's still going. Then you're living your life when you're overseas, and that's going slow. So now when mobilization is over and you're coming home for demob, now demob is basically you're coming back to the states. You're getting acclimated to the elevation, and at the same time of working on being less of the soldier, I'm not going to say the soldier, the overseas soldier, and more to you, so me, and it would be Dwayne. So that everybody loves that. Oh, I'm back home, back home, I'm back home. Now, when you get back home or you get back in the States, you spend, it'll vary. I'm going to say, I mean, I guess on average, like 2 months. Yeah, like 2 months for demo. Now you spend that time basically learning to learn that you're not overseas anymore, that there's basically a time change. You're back to whether it be 10 hours back or 12 hours, whatever the case may be. So, all right. Now, after demo, you go back home, and I would say that's all. This is a part of the process. That's how I feel of the climax of you reaching that point, or at least for me reaching that point. It was a climax. All that was just leading up. So when you get home, to me, that's just another step. That's a step that they really don't focus on because they got pre-mob, mobilization, and demob. Now, to me, the other step, I don't know what you want to call that step, but I'm just going to call it home. So when you're home, that's when reality hits and you realize that life didn't stop at home. And the things that you had, you don't necessarily have anymore. And that's just the reality of it. When time goes by, you will lose the things that you have. Not always, but I'll say, in at least in my case, I did. And I can guarantee you for many other soldiers, there's many things that they lost since they came back home. A lot, and I'm not trying to put like a sob story or anything like that. I'm basically trying to show you guys the climax and to the point that I've reached that helped me get reach that turning point. So when I came back home, everything, honestly, when you come back home, it's like everything goes, at least to me, it kind of basically goes wrong. That's basically what happened for me. But yeah, things are wrong overall, we'll say. And you kind of go through it, you kind of go through the motions, and you go through the hurt, you go through all the emotions in your head, and all the different feelings. And some people, it varies on how long it may be. For me, I guess you could kind of say I went through it for, I'm going to say about, I went through it basically for about, I'm going to say like a month, just because of the fact of, and when I say I went through it, it's more I was in that negative mindset, that negative state, and it was kind of like nothing that could get me out of it. I won't say nothing that could get me out of it. It was, I just wasn't even trying to get out of it. I was too busy. Woe was me, and that's the truth of it. Because especially when I look back on it, it's just me just feeling sorry for myself. And I mean, that's easy. Every and anybody can feel sorry for themselves. So that's basically me and what was going on in my head. So I went through it for like a month, but then at some point, I had my breaking point was basically after that month of me going through it, and it just hit me that it was kind of like, what are you doing? You're just, right now it's like you're a waste of life because you're not doing anything, and all you're doing is feeling bad for yourself, and all the negative thoughts that you have in your head, that that's just making everything worse. So before you would basically, or anybody would reach the point of no return, you want to make sure that your mind is right. And for me, what I had to do is, and it sounds crazy, I didn't really have, at least at that time and point, I didn't really have anybody that was necessarily there for me. But I guess maybe because I didn't reach out. But I mean, I'm really not that kind of person to do that. especially when you're going through things, you're going through the, going through the hurt and whatnot. But so what I end up doing is and I always tell people this. I went through the process. I started thinking now, and this is funny because of now too, especially what's going on in the world. But I was thinking, I was like, if the news can brainwash you with a whole bunch of negative things, then why not try to brainwash myself with positive things? So what I end up doing is, you can go on YouTube. I looked up motivational speeches. I looked up, was it? They have so much like courage, don't give up, uh, change, win. There's so many different motivational speeches. So I went on there, and what I end up doing is I would play those motivational speeches during in the morning when I wake up. So I'd help brainwash myself. I listen to it during the day. I would listen at night. Then I would actually listen to it as I'm going to sleep, because I was like, oh, I would think about hypnosis or anything like that. I knew nothing about that, honestly. But I was like, if there was one way I can hypnotize myself, it's probably going to be in my sleep too. So I made sure I put on headphones and I would listen to it and have it play as I'm sleeping. So when I wake up, it's still playing. So in the morning, I don't even need to turn it on in the morning because it's already playing in my head. So I brainwashed myself with positive things, and to have more of a positive mindset, and to get out of that negative. I did that for about, it sounds crazy, but I did that for about 9 months. And so that's the real process. The climax was the mobilization and the demob. Then I reached that turning point. I reached my breaking point, and then it's slash turning point, and then that's when I went through the motions. But then I went through the process of listening to the motivational speeches and brainwashing myself for the better. Now, brainwashing myself for the better, I feel that really changed my mindset. That's when I started to see things in a whole nother light. So at that point, like, for example, we'll say, I'll use something for example, and this would be and this is a real life situation. Obviously, anything that I really give to you is going to be a real life situation. But we have all that's going on in the world. There's always, like they say, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So there's, within a negative, there is a positive. You just have to look for it. Those people that say, I have bad luck, nothing ever works for me, anything like that. That's them just always looking at the negative and not seeing the positive within it. So what I would do, since, like I said, we have everything that's going on in the world, and you see all the hurt and all the uproar, everything that's going on, like I said, and I don't listen to the news. And like I said to you before, one of the reasons, because of the negative. I don't need to bring negative in my life, because I'm sure we all have it, and we have to deal with that. I don't need to add any extra. So what I would do with a situation, especially since I own a business, I look at this as, with the situation that's going on, a lot of businesses are, they're taking a hit. But when you're taking a hit, you're not necessarily losing. If you want to look at it in a negative way, yeah, you're losing because you're taking a hit. But if you want to look at it in a positive way, you're taking a hit, but how can you, it's basically like it's throwing a ball at you. How can you hit a home run? You know what I mean? And the way that I'm going to hit that home run, I'm going to strategize. Like I always tell people, I play chess. I don't play checkers. I always make sure I'm, like I told you in the first episode, 2 steps ahead. So if a situation comes my way, I figure out how to come up on top of that situation. And that's what I have done for when we had the shutdown for the pandemic, when everything was going on, everybody was going through it. You just have to look at the positive. You have to look at the way to see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's all, like they say, where there's a will, there's a way. You just have to find it. And you have to stop feeling sorry for yourself, and you have to separate yourself from everybody else. So that's part of being an entrepreneur. at least in how I feel. To be as a part of being an entrepreneur, you have to be able to think outside the box. Like I told you guys before, there's three sides of a coin. There's heads, tails, and there's the edge. So that's outside of the box. Everybody normally says two sides. Outside of the box is the edge. I know you guys heard of when you create a box, how, normally everybody stays in a line, the entrepreneur goes outside. So that's just what you have to do. And that's a part of being positive. That's that mindset that you need to have. I really feel you cannot be an entrepreneur without having a positive mindset. I understand to think positive, it's work. It's not something easy. A lot of people think that if you look on social media, it's to be, a lot of people will put up a front, but this is me. You know what I mean? I mean, this is how I live my life, and this is how it helps me stay happy. I went through what I went through for a reason, and I have no regrets of anything that I went through, to be honest with you, because it turned me into the person that I am now. So when people say, "Oh, if you could do it over, what would you change?" I wouldn't change anything. I went through the things that I went through for a reason. I came up on top, and I will continue to come up on top. And that's the mindset that you have to have. I always tell people, do not, if you, I also own a gym. With a gym, if you look at the shirts that we have there at the gym, it says, "Don't try, do." And that's the truth. If you tell yourself try is another word that consists of failure. There's a possibility, a little possibility, if any, a little possibility that you can possibly fail. So why say you're trying? Just say, "I'm going to do it." You know what I mean? There's a difference. And if you say, "Oh, I'm going to try to get this assignment done." No, I'm going to get this assignment done. There's a big difference, because when you say try, like I said, a possibility of failure, and you might be like, "Oh, I might not be able to do it because I have to do this, I have to do that, da, da, da." No, I'm going to. When you say you're going to, you make it priority and you end up doing it. There's a big difference in the things that you say, because if you speak it, it can, and you speak it and you follow through it, it can actually happen. Like they say, what you will be, you will be the things that you say you will be, you will be. If you believe it, you actually achieve it. It's a lot of stupid, it seems like stupid things that we're told, and that people say, but it actually goes a long way. So what I want people to get out of this is, no matter what situation that you're going through, you can always still come up on top of that situation. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's easier said than done," but that's that negative talk. And that's that talk that you really don't need. So just take that. It's easier said than done. Just do it. That's it. The more you think, the more most of the time people start getting into that negative mindset. Don't think about it. Just do it. You know what I mean? Nike said it the best. Just do it. And it's the truth. That's why I always say, don't try, do. Why? Because people say try, and try really shouldn't be in their vocabulary. So, I've done a lot within the little bit of my lifespan that my life so far. And like I told you guys before, I have several different businesses, and I mean, I'm not trying to get any more. I'm not gonna lie to you. This podcast is something that I like to do. So this is something that, I'm gonna go all the way with it. So, if you guys tune in the beginning, you will see the growth all the way to no end. You know what I mean? So there is no end for this. It's just going to continue to go up and continue to rise. And I'm going to continue to grow, and people will grow with me. And that's the way an entrepreneur is. I don't know if you guys ever heard, you listen to motivational speeches like with Will Smith, each one, teach one. You know what I mean? You bring the other person up with you. And that's what this is all about. This is for everybody to come up with me. As you watch, I guarantee you'll get some benefit out of what you're watching, what you're listening to. because this is not only going to be one of those podcasts where you're just listening to me, but it's going to be one of those where we give back. And you guys will learn a little bit later of what I'm talking about, because there's many different ideas and many different things that I want to do where I can actually give back to others. I want to promote basically entrepreneurship, and I want people to see that. I want people to know the truth about entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs, like I said, people, and I know I was preaching about, the positive and the negative, and I was like, don't be negative, stay positive. But I want people to see that on the outside looking in, when you're looking at entrepreneurs, you see, to you everything is like sunshine and rainbows, but it really doesn't work that way on with entrepreneurs. There is a lot of failures that they go through, and like I said before in the previous episode, the failures are just lessons learned. So they fail more times than they win. But why? Because they fail and win. In between the two is learn. That's how they win. And that's something that I want to teach others. And I want all of us really to get together and just win together. You know what I mean? Win together. We're going to fail together. We're going to learn together. We're going to go through the whole process. So, like I said, this is just the beginning where we just do a podcast, but it's going to grow to much more. Uh, I want to thank you all you guys for watching and for tuning in, whether you're doing it live or you're listening to the podcast, the recording. I also wanted to show you guys too. We got, as you see at the bottom, it has the website. I started a website for the podcast. It's inside the mind of an entrepreneur. Inside the mind of an entrepreneur.com. I also have t-shirts there. I want to do something that's pretty cool. Whereas if you go on the website, you purchase a t-shirt, I'm going to do a little raffle, and then we're going to do basically a giveaway. So it's going to be, hopefully you guys have like Cash App or what is it, Venmo, whatever it is. But you would go on the website, purchase a shirt. Then from there, a lot of you already know that there's within the social media of Inside the Mind of an Entrepreneur. I want you guys to hashtag Inside the Mind of an Entrepreneur and basically show a picture of your shirt. So I'm gonna put everybody who does that in a raffle, and then we're just gonna do basically like I guess you could call it a cash giveaway, but somewhat not a cash giveaway, because I mean it's not. I mean it's cash overall because it's going in your Cash App or your Venmo or whatever Zelle. So make sure you guys check it out, inside the mind of an entrepreneur.com. Like I said, there's different shirts, there's hoodies, whatever you guys want to get, whatever makes you happy. You can change the color of the attire, and that's about it. So hope you guys learned a little something. Like I said, I told you guys before, this will basically be the podcast will basically be 30 minutes to 45 minutes. We're always going to keep it around that range. I like to keep it that way because I mean there's a lot of content we're going to go through, and there's a lot of things that you guys are going to learn. So I just want to make sure that we can, really get on it and really just like put a little focus on it. And I don't want us to get into too much, you know what I mean, without giving our main topic a focus. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.